My wife cheated with my best friend, secretly sold our house for $350, $0 behind my back, and is now trying to sue me for half the profits. How did I not see she was planning to financially ruin me? I never thought I'd be the guy to get like this, but here I am, sitting in my living room, staring at a stack of receipts and a series of text messages that make my stomach turn. The most unexpected thing I ever saw was my wife, Lisa, in bed with my best friend, Dave. I always thought we had a solid marriage, sure. Every couple has their fights, but I never suspected it would come to this. It's like I was living in some kind of nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Lisa and I had been together for 8 years. We met in college, and honestly, I thought we were inseparable. We had our problems like any couple. Money was tight sometimes. She'd get bitchy when she was stressed. But overall, I believed we were in it for the long haul. We bought a house together, a nice little place in a quiet suburb, and I worked my ass off at my job as an accountant to keep everything afloat. Things weren't perfect, but they were good enough, or so I thought. The signs started creeping in about 4 months ago. She started staying out later, claiming it was work or girls' nights, but I noticed her phone was constantly glued to her hand, more secretive than ever. She'd hide her texts, delete messages when I walked into the room, and I'd catch her giving me these quick, defensive glances. I wasn't stupid. I knew something was off. Still, I didn't want to jump to conclusions, so I kept quiet, waiting for something concrete. Then last weekend, I saw it. I was cleaning the house, doing laundry, when I found a receipt tucked into her purse. It was from a hotel downtown, one I never knew she'd been to. The date was suspiciously close to a night she'd said she was working late. I looked closer and saw her name, Lisa, on the reservation, along with a phone number I didn't recognize. My heart started pounding. I looked up the number, and it was registered to someone named Dave. That was my best friend's name. My mind raced, trying to piece it together. I decided to do a little digging. I checked her phone when she was in the shower, found texts from Dave talking about how hot Lisa looked last night and how much fun they had. There were flirtatious messages, even some explicit stuff. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. How long had this been going on? Were they really just friends, or was it something more? I didn't confront her immediately. I needed to see if I was imagining things. But the evidence was piling up, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. The next day, I decided to follow her. I hid in my car and watched her leave the house. She went straight to that hotel again. That was the moment I knew my wife was cheating on me with my best friend. The two people I trusted most in this world had been lying to my face. I stayed in the car, feeling like I'd been punched again and again. My mind was spinning. What the hell was I supposed to do? I felt betrayed, angry, and numb all at once. How could Lisa, who used to be so sweet and bitchy, in her own way, do this? And Dave, my best friend, I never thought I'd see the day they'd stab me in the back like this. It was like my whole life was crumbling around me, and I didn't even have a chance to brace for the fall. After I saw her walk into that hotel again, I sat there in my car for what felt like hours, just trying to process what I'd just witnessed. My mind kept spinning with questions. How long had this been going on? How many times had they met behind my back? Was I just blind, or did I choose to ignore all the signs? The worst part was feeling completely powerless. I didn't want to just storm in there and cause a scene, but I also couldn't pretend I didn't see what I saw. That night, I went home and didn't say a word. I just sat on the couch, staring at the wall, trying to figure out what to do next. It was like my entire world had been turned upside down in a matter of hours. I kept thinking about the times Lisa had lied to me, the late nights she'd claimed were work, and how she'd always been so bitchy when she was stressed. Turns out she'd been hiding this from me all along. And Dave, my best friend, I trusted him with my life, and now I found out he'd been screwing my wife behind my back. The next morning, I decided I couldn't keep this inside. I needed answers, so I confronted her. I waited until she came home from work, her high heels clicking on the floor, trying to act like everything was normal. She looked at me with that fake smile, the one she always used when she was hiding something. I told her I knew about the hotel, about the texts, about everything. Her face went pale for a second, then she started lying, saying I was paranoid, that I was imagining things, that I was overreacting. But I was. I knew exactly what I saw. Still, she kept denying it, trying to gaslight me, saying I was just jealous or insecure. She told me I was crazy, that Dave was just a friend, and that I was overreacting because I was stressed about work. She spun all these lies, trying to make me doubt what I knew was true. It was like she was trying to rewrite history, to convince herself as much as me that she was innocent. I felt a mixture of anger and sadness. I'd always been the guy who took care of everything, worked hard, paid the bills, kept the peace. And now I was sitting here, realizing that everything I thought I knew about my marriage was a lie. I looked her in the eyes and saw the bitchiness, the coldness she'd always had when she didn't get her way. That was the moment I knew she'd been planning this for a while. She'd been secretly cheating, lying, and probably even selling parts of our life behind my back. And then I found out she had sold our house. Yep, while I was working late, she'd already sold it for $350, $0. I don't even know how she managed to do that without telling me. She told me she'd handled everything, that it was for our future. But I found out she'd done it all secretly. She was planning to leave me with nothing, or maybe she was planning to take her cut and run. I was stunned. How could she do this? How could she betray me like that? The emotional blow hit me hard. I was furious, heartbroken, and feeling completely betrayed. I'd trusted her with my life, my future, and she'd been screwing my best friend behind my back, selling our house, and now she was trying to sue me for half the profits. She's trying to take what's mine, what I worked for, all because she decided she didn't want to be married anymore and wanted her own way. It was like she was trying to financially ruin me, and I had no idea she'd even been planning this all along. At that moment, I realized I had to do something. I couldn't let her get away with wrecking my life. I started thinking about how to fight back, how to protect what little I had left. I knew she'd try to manipulate the situation, twist the story, and maybe even try to get more than she deserved. But I wasn't going to let her win. I needed a plan, something that would expose her for the lying, manipulative bitch she was. I had to get ahead of her, and I had to do it fast. That's where I'm at now, sitting here trying to figure out my next move, feeling like I've been sucker punched in the gut. I never saw this coming, and honestly, I don't know if I'll ever trust anyone again. After I confronted Lisa that morning, everything changed. The house felt colder, emptier, even though she was still there, pretending everything was normal. I couldn't believe how she kept spinning her lies, trying to convince me she was innocent, that I was just paranoid. But I was. I had proof, those receipts, the texts, her secret sale of the house. She was caught and she knew it. Still, she kept acting like she was the victim, like I was overreacting. I knew I had to act fast. If she was willing to sell our house behind my back, what else was she capable of? I started digging into the legal side of things, what rights I had, what she could do to me. Turns out, she was already planning to sue me for half the profits from the sale. I found out she had hired a lawyer, and I could guess why. She was trying to take everything I worked for. That night, I sat down with my phone and started making calls. I reached out to a lawyer friend, someone I trusted, and laid out everything I knew. I told him about the sale, the texts, the hotel, the lies. He told me I had a good case, especially since the house was in both our names and she had no right to sell it without my knowledge. But I also knew I had to be careful. Lisa was cunning, and she'd do everything she could to spin things in her favor. Meanwhile, Lisa kept acting like nothing was wrong. She'd come home, put on that fake smile, and pretend she was the perfect wife. But I caught her in little lies. She claimed she was out with her girlfriends, but I saw her texting Dave again, late at night. I found more messages, more flirtation, more proof she was still lying. It was like she was trying to gaslight me into doubting myself, but I refused to let her. The more I looked into her plans, the angrier I got. She'd been secretly saving money, probably from her side hustle, selling stuff online, I later found out, and she'd been planning to leave me with nothing. She'd even tried to get a loan against the house before selling it, but I caught wind of that too. I realized she'd been scheming for months, maybe longer, while pretending everything was fine. In the middle of all this chaos, I started noticing how she'd become even more bitchy and aggressive. She'd yell at me for no reason, accuse me of controlling her, call me insecure. But I saw through her now. She was trying to make me the bad guy, to make me doubt myself so she could have her way. That's when I decided I had to take control of the situation. I couldn't let her manipulate me anymore. I told her I was going to fight her in court, that I wasn't going to let her walk away with half our house's profit. She scoffed, called me a jealous idiot, said I was ruining everything, but I could see the panic in her eyes. She knew she'd underestimated me, that I was serious. That night I started gathering evidence, screenshots of messages, bank statements, everything that proved her lies. I also contacted a real estate lawyer to understand my rights and to prepare for the worst. I was angry. Yes, but I also felt betrayed on a deep level. How could Lisa do this to me? How could she sell our home, the place we built our life together, behind my back? I kept asking myself if I missed the signs, if I was blind or just naive. The truth was, I was, and now I had to fight for what was rightfully mine. I couldn't believe I was in this mess, and honestly, I was scared about what was coming next. But I knew I had to be strong, because if I didn't fight for myself now, I'd lose everything she was trying to take from me. The next few days were a whirlwind. I spent every free moment poring over documents, talking to lawyers, and trying to piece together everything I could about her plans. Lisa kept acting like she was the victim, crying, throwing tantrums, trying to guilt-trip me into backing down. She'd say things like, "You're overreacting, I never wanted this to happen," or "You're just jealous because I still look good and I want my own life." That bitchy tone she always had when she was angry was even more pronounced now. Like she was trying to manipulate me into feeling guilty, but I wasn't buying it. I knew her game. She'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. I found out she'd secretly sold our house for $350, $0, without telling me. She hidden all the paperwork, transferred money into her own accounts, and even tried to get a loan against the house before she sold it. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. She'd been scheming behind my back, lying about everything, and I was just now realizing how deep this rabbit hole went. I also uncovered more about her side hustle, selling jewelry, designer clothes, even some of our furniture online. She'd been secretly cashing in, squirreling away money, probably to fund her escape plan. The more I dug, the more I saw that she'd been planning her exit for a while. I was furious. She'd turned my trust into ash. Meanwhile, Dave kept texting her, even after I'd confronted her about the affair. I saw explicit messages, things I won't repeat here, where they talked about how much they enjoy sneaking around and how perfect their secret is. It was obvious they'd been crossing boundaries for months. I felt sick. I'd always considered Dave my brother, and here he was, screwing my wife behind my back, destroying everything I thought we had. I decided I needed to do something drastic. I contacted a lawyer and filed paperwork to freeze her accounts and prevent her from selling any more assets. I also contacted the bank to flag the money from the house sale. I knew she'd try to run with the cash or hide it. I wasn't about to let her get away with it. My legal team advised me to prepare for a court battle. She was already trying to sue me for half the profits, claiming I was controlling and abusive to justify her actions. That made me even angrier. She was trying to spin it all just like she always did. I started documenting everything: texts, emails, bank statements, even her phone calls. I wanted to have proof of her lies and manipulations. I also hired a private investigator to keep tabs on her movements. I needed to know if she was planning to leave town or hide more money. The last thing I wanted was to be again. Throughout all this, she kept up her bitchy attitude. She'd scream at me, call me paranoid, accuse me of cheating or controlling her. I could see the desperation in her eyes, like she was trying to hold on to what she thought was hers. But I knew better now. I saw through her. This wasn't just about a fling or a secret sale. It was about her trying to ruin me financially, emotionally, and maybe even physically if she thought she could get away with it. I was exhausted, emotionally drained, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I knew I had to stand my ground. I couldn't let her manipulate her way out of this. I was determined to fight her in court, to get back what she'd stolen, and to hold her accountable for the betrayal. I never thought I'd be in this position, but here I was, ready to go to war for my life and my future. I was not going to let her win, no matter what she threw at me. I just hoped I had enough strength left to see this through because I knew she wouldn't go down without a fight. The court dates came faster than I expected, and I was all ready. Deep into preparation. Every document, every email, every text message I had collected was laid out in front of me. I worked with my lawyer day and night, trying to anticipate her moves. Lisa, on the other hand, was acting even more bitchy and aggressive, trying to intimidate me, calling me names, accusing me of trying to ruin her life. But I saw through her act now. She was desperate, cornered, and trying to throw me off balance. She hired her own lawyer, of course. I could tell she was throwing everything she had at me, trying to make me look controlling, paranoid, even abusive. She'd spin stories about how I was jealous or how I'd hit her once, which was a complete lie. She claimed I was trying to keep her from her freedom and that I was trying to control her money. Her lawyer even tried to argue that she had the right to sell the house because she was the victim of a controlling marriage, which made me sick. I knew this was her desperate attempt to justify her betrayal. Throughout the hearings, I remained calm. I presented all my evidence, the receipts from the hotel, the texts from Dave, the bank statements showing her attempts to hide money, and the proof she had tried to get a loan against our house. I also brought in witnesses, friends who knew about her side hustle, people who saw her secretive behavior. It was brutal, but I knew I had to be strong. This was about justice, not just for me, but for the fact that she'd been lying and scheming behind my back for months. As the judge reviewed everything, I could see her lawyer trying to poke holes in my story, but it was clear she had nothing solid. Her lies were crumbling under the weight of the evidence. I felt a strange mix of relief and anger, relief that I might finally get some justice, and anger that she'd done all this to me in the first place. I kept thinking about all the nights I spent working late, trying to build a future, only to be betrayed like this. The most shocking moment came when the judge asked her directly about the sale of the house. Lisa hesitated, then finally admitted she'd sold it without telling me, but she claimed she did it because I was abusive and controlling. That was a lie, and everyone in the courtroom could see it. My lawyer argued that her actions were a clear breach of our marriage vows and that she'd acted deceitfully, trying to ruin me financially. The judge listened carefully, flipping through the evidence I'd presented. In the end, the judge ruled in my favor on most points. She ordered Lisa to pay back the money she'd hidden and to compensate me for the sale of the house. She also dismissed her attempt to sue me for half the profits because I had legal rights to the property as a co-owner. It wasn't a perfect victory, but it was enough to make me feel like I was finally taking back control of my life. Still, I knew this was far from over. Lisa was furious, and I could tell she was already planning her next move. When I left the courtroom that day, I felt exhausted but victorious. I'd fought tooth and nail for what was rightfully mine, and I'd finally exposed her lies. But underneath it all, I was still hurting. I lost my wife, my best friend, the life I thought I knew. The betrayal ran deep. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I didn't see that she was planning to screw me over from the beginning. The whole thing made me realize I'd been naive, trusting too much, ignoring the red flags. But I also learned that sometimes you have to fight for yourself, no matter how painful it gets. That's the only way to truly move forward. After everything was settled legally, I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. The court had sided with me, and I'd managed to stop her from taking more than she deserved, but the emotional damage lingered. I spent weeks trying to piece myself back together, going to therapy, talking to friends, trying to understand how someone I loved and trusted could betray me so completely. It was a brutal lesson in trusting the wrong people, in ignoring the subtle signs that I now recognized as red flags. Lisa, of course, didn't take the loss well. She tried to fight me on every front, sending angry texts, accusing me of ruining her life, and even attempting to turn friends and family against me. But I stayed firm. I knew her game, and I refused to let her manipulate me anymore. She moved out eventually, taking what little she hadn't already hidden away, and I was left with the aftermath, An empty house, a broken marriage, and a shattered sense of security. Looking back, I realize I should have seen the warning signs sooner. The late nights, the secretive phone calls, the way she'd get bitchy and dismissive when I asked about her plans. I was blinded by love, by hope that things would work out, by a false sense of security. I trusted her too much, ignored the little voice telling me something was wrong. Now I know better. This whole ordeal has changed me. I'm more cautious, more aware of the red flags that I once dismissed. I've learned that no matter how much you want things to be perfect, you have to pay attention to the signs. Trust is essential, but it has to be earned every day. People are capable of incredible betrayal, and sometimes they'll do everything they can to destroy you just to get what they want. As for the money, I've managed to rebuild some stability. I've paid off debts, secured my own place, and started focusing on myself. I don't regret fighting for what's mine, even if it was painful. I've come to accept that not everyone is who they seem to be, and sometimes love isn't enough. You have to protect yourself and your future, even if it means losing the person you once thought was your forever. If there's one thing I want anyone reading this to take away, it's this: be vigilant. Don't ignore the signs. Trust your gut, but also verify. People can hide a lot behind a pretty face or a convincing smile. And when you finally realize the truth, don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. It's better to face the pain now than to live in denial and lose everything later. I'm still healing, still trying to rebuild my life one day at a time. It's not easy, but I know I'll come out stronger on the other side. The betrayal was devastating, but it also taught me what truly matters: honesty, loyalty, and the courage to walk away from those who don't deserve a place in your life. I hope anyone in a similar situation finds the strength to do the same.